Locked in a lab. How animals have been locked up and abused for centuries.
Animal testing has been in practice for centuries. In fact, it has been practiced since ancient Greek times. Scientists such as Aristotle have been using animals in their various experiments. This animal testing still survives and impacts our everyday life. Even today, many of the products that we use have been made because they were tested on animals. Products such as medication and makeup have been tested on animals to ensure that they are safe for humans. But even though animal testing has helped achieve many feats, it is not all good and beneficial. It has a dual personality. Animals go through lots of suffering during most of the experiments. Apes find themselves locked in a lab instead of spending their life in the jungle. Dogs are cut open while alive instead of playing fetch with their owner. Animal testing has gone too far in the recent years, and its industrialization has harmed too many animals. Over 115 million animals are abused and harmed yearly due to animal testing, and this has to stop. The use of animal testing for scientific advancement has a history of violating the rights of living creatures. Scientists have ignored their responsibility of treating animals with respect.
Animal testing first arose in ancient Greece 500 BC, when doctors and scientists began utilizing animals to further their progress and work more efficiently. Notably, people such as Aristotle and Galen used animal testing to study physiology, pathology, and anatomy, and the knowledge of humans in that period progressed by a large margin. Back in ancient Greece, people weren't very aware of the pain and suffering animals go through during testing. Nowadays, people are far more aware of what goes on during animal testing. Again, back in ancient Greece, Aristotle had thought of a concept. Scala naturae was the ranking of different life forms' value. He said humans were on top and animals were below them, made to serve humans, and humans had no obligation to preserve their rights morally or ethically. Nowadays, people have coined the ranking of sentient beings' life value into a term called speciesism, which was coined by Richard Ryder, who is an animal rights activist and a writer. As animal testing evolves, the people who want to try to stop it evolve with it. Organizations like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, have rose to try and stop animal testing, or at least try to make it more ethical. PETA's first ever notable achievement was when they investigated and won the Silver Spring Monkeys case, which was a case that was caused by the improper use of animal testing, where 17 originally wild monkeys were trapped in rusty cages with minimal care and surgeries and amputations that were performed by less than qualified people, which often ended up in the monkeys getting hurt and having no one to treat it.
Animals also have rights just like humans, but many humans choose to ignore their rights and abuse animals for their gain. If the things that animals go through for science isn't bad enough, which at least benefits humanity, we also subject them to pain to test cosmetics, which has no true benefit to humans other than they let us look different, which is rather unnecessary. One of these tests is the Draize test. The Draize test is a cruel test that was developed by John H. Draize. It involves placing cosmetic products into the eyes of a white rabbit and then observing and noting the reaction in the eyes. Swelling, redness, irritation, pus, etc. Many activists have spoken out against this test as it is cruel and inhumane. People have also said that cosmetic testing should be banned because it is not dealing with important matters such as finding vaccines or cures for diseases. There is another type of cosmetic testing which is arguably much more cruel, and it is called LD50 testing. The LD stands for lethal dose. In this test, animals are given a lethal dose of a cosmetic product and the results are measured. Scientists keep giving doses of the product until 50% of the animals are dead. This test goes too far. If it not only harms and causes pain to animals, but also ends in the death of half the animals, and the other half severely harmed. The USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, states that out of all animals used in animal testing, 58% of the animals felt no pain during the test. 36% felt pain, but pain was a factor in the test, but they were given pain medication after. 6% were involved in experiments in which they were inflicted to pain and not even given pain medication afterwards. Many activists argue that these numbers are false and the USDA is covering up the real numbers. In fact, many numbers involving animal testing have been concealed from the public. Michelle Thiel, the CEO of the British Union for the Abolition of Animal Vivisection, demand that scientists give real numbers and a proper viewpoint of the real grisly truth about animal testing.
All this cruelty is justified by the technological and medical gains for humanity, according to people who support or think animal testing is necessary. And even though animal testing does get a bad rep, it also has benefits. Many scientific and medical discoveries have come through animal testing, like how it helped end smallpox because of tests on cows, but animal activists don't think this is fair or ethical, even though this is a major gain to humanity. It should be noted that activists think that scientists are ignoring their responsibility to make sure animals in testing shouldn't be too uncomfortable. But animal rights activists aren't trying to completely abolish animal testing, but are instead trying to make tests as ethical as possible, while maintaining efficiency because some scientists are taking shortcuts and ignoring the rights of animals. Animal testing is often inaccurate and inefficient. Animals and humans have a very different physiology from each other. Plus, animal research can cost millions of dollars per test. Many variables are introduced. Different labs have different living conditions that can lead to different test results. False test results also have a large chance of harming humans, and because of the variables, it's often. The FDA states that 96% of drugs tested on animals never make it into the market, which makes it all the less efficient. Animal testing has been controversial its whole lifespan, and yet it still survives because of how influential it is on modern-day drugs and discoveries that still impact modern life. In recent times, animal rights have been put on the spotlight, and people are trying to hold scientists responsible for their actions, which may lead to the downfall of animal testing. If animal testing is to be abolished, alternatives are in development, but are more expensive and technologically demanding. These alternatives may not be able to fully replicate the conscience and biology of a living, breathing animal, but they can sure come close. One major concept that could be an alternative to animal testing is advanced generative AI. And at the rate AI is advancing, this idea may not be too far-fetched. Even though animal testing hasn't fallen, some alternatives have finally been put into motion to replace the cruelties of animal testing. One promising alternative that is currently being worked on is putting human skin cells and putting them in a contained artificial environment to be deliberately infected with diseases and other things that are needed to be researched. These tests are a very good way of demonstrating how the human body reacts to diseases and how it can possibly prevent or cure diseases without animal testing. Animal testing has advanced the world's science and medical tech for years, but animal testing has also led to the death of around 115 million animals worldwide. Many animals are taken out of their homes just to be tested on. These animals are often in great pain and often for nothing, as 96% of animal tests do not result in anything. To make all this worse, there have also been many threats and attacks from terrorist animal rights groups. Many labs are broken into and vandalized. This puts many human lives at risk and impacts even more animals.
All in all, animal testing has changed the world for the good and the bad, though its controversial story may come to an end soon. The world's medicine and technology has evolved, but the lines between ethical and unethical have become foggy on this controversial dilemma. While some argue that the technological gain is more beneficial than the ethical tragedy that is animal testing, some think about this in vice versa. The ethicality outweighs the beneficial gains from animal testing. In the end, alternatives to animal testing will reach their full form. Eventually, animal testing will come to an end. But if it's gonna end, then people need to be aware of what's happening. And you could help by spreading awareness, by telling a friend or a family member about animal testing. The best way to solve a problem in this world is to do something about it. What can you do to help? Think about it.
So in Animal Liberation, I rejected speciesism. I didn't invent the word. I took it from Richard Ryder, who was somebody I knew in Oxford at the time when I was a graduate student. I guess I used it a little, defined it a little more precisely, and helped to popularize it. I define speciesism as a prejudice or attitude of bias towards the interests of members of one's own species against those of members of other species.